So here it is. This is going to be the most important video that proves the corruption that took place in Abu Dhabi. It's going to take 15 to 20 minutes to get through this, but you need to see it because I can't make it any shorter than that. I will do a long version that will be close to an hour, which will prove even more, but I'll make this as quickly as I can. 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix. Let's watch this.
They'd better hope at Mercedes we're going to get some racing here, Ted. Otherwise, they've just pitted their man off the podium.
I had to wipe my eyes seeing Lewis Hamilton into the pits. With all that we've seen about how long it takes here in Brazil to get these safety cars done and dusted, they can't think we're going to get many more racing laps, surely.
Well, we've only got 4 laps to go.
What?
Yeah.
What have they done?
This could well end under the safety car or just one lap at the end.
Definitely.
Wow.
So with 4 laps to go, they were capable of predicting a safety car finish back then. But I'm going to show the ending eventually, and it didn't end under the safety car. And that isn't even half of it. That was the second safety car. We're going to deal with the first safety car first. But before we do, let's remind ourselves what Martin Brundle told the world the day after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on the 13th of December 2021.
Martin, thanks for joining us. Everybody has been talking about this, so 24 hours or so on. What are your thoughts on what happened?
Well, it was an incredible few minutes of sport, wasn't it? With a very grave consequences if you were Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes-Benz, and an amazing experience if you were Max Verstappen and Red Bull.
I'm going to stop it now and again just so that I don't get copyright issues to do some analysis. Look at his eyes. He does appear to be reading off a script at points in time. So here we go again.
Very complex matter. So it was so exciting to a wonderful finale to a wonderful Grand Prix season. But then, of course, there's a lot of controversy around it, and it's all a bit uncomfortable and doesn't shine a particularly good light on Formula One and its processes. But it was a hugely complex and compressed moment and several regulations were tripping over themselves. And we ended up with a bit of a hybrid solution there, which is why the lawyers are getting involved and Did
you have to read that, Martin? A hybrid solution. We get them, do we? We'll carry on.
Interpretation of wording in the regulations, and of course, the sporting regs are 99 pages, and you need to read every single word carefully. It's like a legal document, and the sporting code, which backs everything up, is that sort of thick, and it's a minefield. And in the heat of the moment, when Michael Massey, the race director, had to consider the safety of marshals, was the car out of the way, he couldn't release the cars until he was the lapped cars until he was certain that the track was reasonably clear. Although they
reasonably clear, the track has to be clear. Sounds like a lot of waffle at the moment, Martin, to try and justify and validate and condition people to just accept things.
Of course, have to proceed with caution anyway. And you know what? Even knowing who the lap cars are is not as straightforward as you might think, because...
Okay, hold on to that point. Even knowing who the lap cars is not as straightforward as you might think. Okay, so we'll give an explanation, but hold that thought.
You get a safety car situation, and some cars pit, and that means they are then lapped, or the leader pits and unlaps some other cars. So it takes a certain amount of time to work out exactly who the lap runners are, where they are.
None of that happened in Abu Dhabi, by the way, but thanks for the explanation, Martin. But still hold that thought.
The pack, but the fundamental point of that rule is to make sure that they don't get in the way of a great duel towards the end of a Grand Prix, and that certainly happened, didn't it?
The fundamental rule of releasing the lapped cars is so that they don't get in the way of a great duel at the end of a Grand Prix, and that certainly happened, didn't it? So keep that point in mind too, about the fact that the purpose of releasing the lapped cars is so they don't get in the way of a duel. that's just 2 minutes of the almost 10-minute long interview that Martin Brundle gave on the 13th of December, and he finishes it off with his Jedi mind tricks akin to this.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along. Move along.
That's how it played out on Sunday, and I think it's time to move on now. That's how it played out on Sunday, and I think it's time to move on now. That's how it played out on Sunday, and I think it's time to move on now.
So the very next day after Abu Dhabi, Martin Brundle is urging the world to move on. We're going to now look at the 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix. We're currently on lap 52 of 71 when this happens.
It has to be said, Bottas is pulling over and he's pulling out of this race. Valtteri Bottas slowing down. We saw the smoke coming out of the back of his engine. The smoke coming out of the back of his engine, and it's going to be a terminal problem for Valtteri Bottas as he retires from this race.
And how sensibly will he park that car? Will we need a virtual safety car? Will we need a safety car indeed?
Okay, so Bottas pulls over at turn 4 on the inside of the track, adjacent to a slip road. Should be an easy recovery. But what we end up seeing is a lap and a half later, the safety car is deployed. I'm not saying that in this Liberty Media era, we now see more safety cars deployed because it spices up the excitement. It could be due to health and safety being on the increase and litigation culture preventing claims for misconduct. But there is a seemingly tendency to put out safety cars in Formula One these days, much greater than they ever used to be. Look at where the leaders are. Verstappen and Hamilton are on the start-finish straight, crossing the start-finish line. So, top of the screen, Ham, first and second. Third car down the road, Pierre Gasly in the light blue. Now look over on the right-hand side of the screen where the list of competitors is in the running order. So in race order, it's Verstappen, Hamilton, Vettel, Leclerc, Albon, Bottas, who we know has just retired from 6th, and then Pierre Gasly in 7th. So actually, Gasly's going to be promoted up to 6th when he passes the Bottas site. So Gasly is in 6th, but he's running 3rd behind Hamilton. That means Gasly has been lapped. Okay, 6th position has been lapped. Now, let's see how difficult it is to identify the lapped cars, because Martin tells us it's difficult.
Will we need a safety car indeed?
So, let's have a look at the data view. First, Verstappen. Second, Hamilton. Third, Vettel. Fourth, Leclerc. Fifth, Albon. Sixth, currently not showing he's retired yet, Bottas. Seventh, Gasly. +1 lap. Oh, could it be that he's been lapped? And all the runners running behind Gasly, well, they've been lapped too. Not that hard really, is it, Martin? And if you also make a note of this, Kubica, running in 20th position, has been lapped twice by the leaders. He had an extra long pit stop, and whilst he was in there, got lapped twice. And if you actually look right at the bottom, you see, relatively speaking, where the cars are on track. And if just where I'm waving my cursor at the moment is the white dot of Kubica. Behind him is Bottas. Okay, because Bottas has now stopped. So Kubica must just have gone round turn 4. Russell is almost coming up to lap him as well. So Kubica, will have been lapped by everybody on the field because the person ahead of him is Hulkenberg, but he's ahead of Russell. So when Russell overtakes Kubica, Russell running in 19th will have lapped his own teammate in 20th. That's how far Kubica is in this race. And the reason that's important is because of the second safety car situation. So this is a lap and a half beyond where I first paused it on tracker view, and this is what happens.
Trying to just leave that car there and not put people out, actually. Safety car, full safety car.
So safety car is finally deployed. Check the tracker view. So Verstappen, Hamilton, and then behind them on track is Gasly, but Gasly is now registering in 6th position because Bottas is now registered as retired. Where's 5th position? Well, 5th position, so this is 6th, Gasly at turn 8, and then come around here onto the start-finish straight, not yet crossing the line, is Alex Albon, the darker blue dot, in 5th position. So that is the position of Gasly in 6th and Albon in 5th. So this is the distance between the two at the deployment of the safety car. This is a situation 1 lap later. This time Hamilton is leading the race at turn 9. Verstappen pitted for some fresh tyres and he dropped behind Gasly and Grosjean and is in this position here on track just by turn 6. This is it, a lap on from that. So the field, as you can see, is all bunching. This is what happens when the safety car is deployed. All of the competitors end up concertina running one behind the other. Remember that Bottas pulled out of the race on lap 52. This is now the end of lap 56, going on to lap 57.
Saying, what were our options? Could we have come in? What other things could we have done? But I think they just, well, either they were late or didn't get the right tyre or didn't have the tyres available, but they didn't, and I think Leclerc's going to get the better of his teammate.
Lapped cars are now starting to unlap themselves.
Okay, so we're on lap 57, and the order is given,
action, as you can see,
for the lapped cars
with car
to
number 10,
unlap.
Pierre Gasly. There's a lot of lap cars.
Look at Kubica, look at Russell. Remember, Kubica's been lapped twice. Russell's only been lapped once.
It's going to take a while to sort itself out a little bit. How many laps older are Sebastian Vettel's tyres? 5 laps older than Charles Leclerc's.
Yeah, Max is on brand new softs then, of course.
Yeah. So he's on brand new softs. When did Albon come into the pits?
Lewis is on 12 lap old mediums.
So he'd only just come into the pits, Albon as well. Is there a danger here, Martin, that Lewis Hamilton is under threat from Verstappen, Vettel, Albon and Leclerc towards the...
Mercedes with their wonderful strategies again, but we won't enter into that on this particular video.
End of this race.
Could be. Yep. Leclerc's got to pass Albon first before he can get to his teammate, but Vettel's sitting there as well, exposed, isn't he? Albon was unlucky because I think he did a green flag pit stop, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
But they've all concertinaed up. I guess when you put the full safety car out, and when you put the full safety car out, it means there are periods of time when the pack are all round the other side of the track, and if you want to clear a car away, whereas a virtual safety car, they can keep coming round all the time.
There you go, Martin.
It was a difficult call, but that car was out of the firing line. You couldn't hit that car there, but I guess leaving a stranded car on the side of the track is not really
Russell
very Formula One,
is passing the leaders now. So this is lap 57. The leaders are just about to start lap 58 when they cross the start-finish line, where Kubica now is, the white dot on the top straight of the screen. Which means, as all of those lapped cars have been released this lap, then there must be one mandatory safety car lap in order to give these cars that have been released the opportunity to catch the back of the pack, which here is Charles Leclerc. There is an anomaly here, and that is Robert Kubica. Because he has been lapped twice, the race director has it within his discretion to decide, are too many laps going to elapse in allowing him to be unlapping himself twice, because he's effectively his elongated pit stop has caused it. You'd be 2 laps behind, you're kind of out of the race at 2 laps behind. If you've just been lapped once, you're still racing the car in front of you. But in terms of Kubica, he's still almost an entire lap behind the car in front of him, which is his teammate Russell, who's also lapped. So the race director does use his discretion here to not overly prolong it, to let Kubica unlap himself twice. Okay, but everybody else he's released that one time, and we're now going to enter onto lap 58, which is the mandatory safety car lap in order for the pack to reform. So here we go.
Struggling to keep tempo inside, man.
Yeah, because he needs that safety car to go a bit faster. There's the Williams of George Russell.
So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit.
Now doing that.
Here we go. So this is. I'm going around the track on lap 58.
Points as
the
well.
mandatory safety car lap, and this is how this is where we should start racing at the end of this lap.
The safety car, and why did you decide to pit Max Verstappen?
Well, in a situation like that, Mercedes would have done the opposite.
Thanks for that,
we've
Christian.
taken an attacking approach to this last part of the race. We've conceded track position, but put him on what we think will be a better tyre to the end of the race.
Right, we can start racing now. We've done the mandatory safety car lap. What's going on?
And the end of the race, he's going to have a chance to get past Lewis, but surely you're going to have to be watching as well for Vettel, for Albon, Leclerc. All could be a grandstand finish, this.
Yeah, it's going to.
Oh, the grandstand finish.
Yeah, you know, we've gone for it. As I say, if we'd have stayed out, they would have pitted. We elected to take the aggressive approach. So
lap 59.
We'll see what we've got to the end of the race.
Thanks ever so much, Christian, and good to have you with us this weekend.
How old are my tyres, man? I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep them behind. So they're 15 laps.
Safety car coming in at the end of this lap, so he's going to have 12 laps or so to try and survive this. It's kind of all doom and gloom in Lewis Hamilton's head, but that's understandable given the position he's now in.
Verstappen and the Red Bull have just had the raw pace today to put themselves.
By fast forwarding, I've actually cut out the commentary where they actually go on to actually explain, oh look, Gasly there is still quite a way behind the lead pack, and maybe the race director is going to make the safety car do an additional lap to give the rest of the field the chance of catching up. So me fast forwarding it has made a mistake in not showing you that, but that's what's actually happened. He's performed the mandatory safety car lap, and because the rest of the field has not made it back to resume sporting fairness, which is to ensure the correct starting order, first through to 19th that are still remaining running, with the exception of Kubica, who got lapped twice, so that they're in the correct order and that they're all pretty much nose to tail, so nobody has got a major significant advantage. Because let's face it, if, for example, third place in the race has been able to catch the 30 seconds that he had to gain to catch up with second, why should, for example, Gasly, who was, for example, 30 seconds behind Albon, now be left a lap behind Albon? That's the purpose of the rule. It's so that everybody gets that reset start of being nose to tail with the competitor that you are challenging in front and that the competitor who is challenging you from behind. That's the entire purpose of it. But this is coming through to the end of the second lap, that the second lap performed behind the safety car that was beyond the lap in which all of those lapped cars were released.
In this strong position, but it's not done and dusted yet. But Lewis is definitely having a glass half empty day.
Which could all change if he's on the top step of the podium at the end of this race. Max Verstappen is as keen as a young Cocker Spaniel behind him there to get going.
And you really do need to let the safety car get a long way away here, because you climb the hill.
Come on, mate. You've done this once already on the same compound.
So Hamilton will back the pack up right now.
So look at the pack,
Verstappen is
nose to tail,
on the brakes.
and this is how we see a safety car start,
So let the safety
restart.
car go away.
We don't see what we saw in Abu Dhabi, which was 5 cars less than halfway advanced around the track, having only just been released. This is the restart after a safety car. All the cars, line astern, ready to get going. So what we've seen there is this notion of the race directors overriding discretionary use of the safety car. He has performed the mandatory 1 lap, and then he's used his overriding authority to make the safety car stay out for a further lap on the grounds of sporting fairness, in order for all competitors to be able to reform the pack in order to make safe and fair restart conditions for the entire field of competitors. Like I say, barring Kubica, who had been lapped twice. That's the discretionary element. But the 2019 Brazil Grand Prix does not stop there. It is the gift that keeps on giving. Because on lap 66 of 71, this happens.
Vettel will get DRS down the Retro-Aposta. Can he now fight back? Leclerc made it very tough earlier. Oh no, he's got a puncture. They made contact, and Charles Leclerc's got a puncture caused by contact with his teammate Sebastian Vettel.
It's actually a broken front suspension as well, steering arm or something.
And what are we going to see?
And Vettel's got problems too. And that is a Ferrari collision and a double DNF for Ferrari that has been caused all of their own making.
And so let's see what that looks like on tracker view.
All of their own making.
So at this stage, we've got Max Verstappen leading the race in between turns 12 and 11. Okay, here. Hamilton in 2nd place. Albon in 3rd place. With the retirement of the 2 Ferraris, Pierre Gasly, who had been lapped, is at turn 9, now in 4th place. Okay, so we'll see what happens.
They were racing hard, they got too close,
There's
they're both
debris
out.
all over the track. A car in the firing line on the outside of turn 4, and this is totally self-inflicted here for Ferrari.
Safety car's been deployed. We have another safety car in this race. That was that little touch there. And it's...
The puncture, what the hell is he doing? Sorry.
Lance Stroll has also gone off.
That was the merest little touch, wasn't it?
Who's at fault there?
Didn't swing a
So
little bit
Stroll's
left down the
retired
straight.
here in between turns
say,
8 and 9.
That is racing.
Hamilton's
Proper
gone
racing,
into
and
the
we want to
pits.
see teammates go for it as well, and occasionally that happens. I don't think you can blame on first look for me, Martin. You can't blame
Hamilton's
Charles
pitted
Leclerc.
in this, obviously, with the safety car deployed. Hamilton pits. It's Red Bull 1 and 2 now.
Well, Hamilton pits. They're obviously thinking we're going to get.
So what we have here is around about on this runoff area of turn 4 is where Charles Leclerc's car is. Vettel is at turn 11. Stroll is at turn 8. Okay. But they clear these pretty quick. It's not as though there's a huge amount of carbon fibre debris all strewn over the track. It is a proper race car circuit. So you do have runoff areas. It's not a street circuit where you're just encapsulated by barriers, whereby if somebody crashes on track, it really causes a problem. There's, you've only got a narrow passageway past it. The runoff areas at conventional F1 tracks enable, they don't cause the same problems that street circuits do. Okay, but we're just going to play this forward and see what happens again under the safety car and see what happens again.
A couple more laps of racing in here, and that will help Lewis Hamilton. But where is he going to come back out into the field? Carlos Sainz is
Ahead
fourth.
of that big pack.
Yeah, but he's going to be behind Gasly. He'll be behind Pierre
So-
Gasly.
Gasly's on the podium. Honda 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
There you go.
They'd better hope at Mercedes we're going to get some racing here, Ted. Otherwise, they've just pitted their man off the podium.
I had to wipe my eyes seeing Lewis Hamilton into the pits. With all that we've seen about how long it takes here in Brazil to get these safety cars done and dusted, they can't think we're going to get many more racing laps, surely.
Well, we've only got 4 laps to go.
What?
Yeah.
What have they done?
This could well end under the safety car or just one.
Oh, so we can decide that this could well end under the safety car. How many times did you point that out in Abu Dhabi? How many times in Abu Dhabi did you say this could well end behind the safety car? And if it does, you are watching history. You are watching Lewis Hamilton become an 8-time world champion. You didn't do that, did you? Instead, you lied about the rules. Oh, we think the safety car might be coming in this lap. Would do, could do, should do, whatever he said. Or we can actually get going like this, with 5 lapped cars still in situ in between first and second, because we think we're going to see this one racing lap, which is what you were telling us all the way through. You didn't tell us, oh, this could well end behind the safety car, and Lewis will be champion. Let's carry on with this.
One lap at the end.
Definitely.
A little touch, wasn't it, between the Ferraris?
It was. Well, look, let's have a go.
Believe the amount of damage it did.
Brilliant move from Leclerc down the inside. Sebastian Vettel now gets DRS through the next detection zone, so he's more than entitled to come back.
So they will talk about the notion of lapped cars.
The middle of the track, he didn't move over at all there. He didn't move in on Sebastian Vettel. Vettel thought he was obviously clear of his teammates by the time he moved slightly to the left.
Remember as well, when it comes to the lapped car situation, effectively at this point, because it's only been a short period of time since the safety car was deployed for Bottas, no further cars have been lapped during those few laps. There is still a lapped car on track, which is Kubica, who was originally 2 laps behind everybody and only released for the 1 lap. So when Chandok chimes in that there's a lapped car there, the race director has already determined at the previous safety car that that's what he was going to do with Kubica. He was not going to let him unlap himself twice. So he's therefore, come this safety car, not going to make Kubica unlap. Okay, that decision has already been taken. So from this, for this clear-up operation, from this position, there doesn't need to be the lap that the cars are released on, which has to occur after the debris has been cleared up. And then there doesn't need to be that mandatory lap. And yet they are still suggesting, oh, it could have been a safety car finish. Them extra things had to happen in Abu Dhabi, and they didn't say that it could have been a safety car finish. Look at the differences.
What the hell?
Seb went a little bit left, didn't he? Here we go.
That's Seb's fault.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward this
so unlucky to get that amount of damage to both cars.
Calm it down. Puncture as well.
So we see the reform.
I do think by the way, the last Honda 1-2 was the day that Ayrton Senna clinched his 3rd world title in Japan in 1991. At the moment, it's a Honda.
So how are we seeing the restart conditions?
Honda-powered 1, 2, 3. Bit of symmetry, isn't there?
There's only one car running that's been lapped.
Carlos, keep letting us know about debris. Keep letting us know about debris.
Yeah, debris are still there.
So what you're seeing here is that Grosjean, which is the tail car, in 15th, which is he's like Kubica's 16th. Like I say, Kubica's the lap behind, but this has already been taken into account by the race director. Hence for the non-release of the lapped car in this particular circumstance. Okay, but this is the correct race order, barring the special circumstance for Kubica. And we're about ready to get going again.
No one has to clear them. So for the moment we cannot race. It's very dangerous.
McLaren don't want the race to restart, of course.
No, absolutely
with Sainz
not.
in 5th.
Debris sounds like some new French driver coming into Formula One. Karun, to you.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because Lewis wants to get going and he's talking about, right, we don't need to get lap cars, let's get on with it. Max, obviously, on the radio, no, too much debris, we need to finish the next few laps like this.
Do you know what? I wouldn't be at all unhappy, Martin, if it did finish like this, because Pierre Gasly has driven a faultless race today and is on for his first podium in Formula One.
So you wouldn't be at all unhappy if it finished behind the safety car. I was wrong on my last bit of speak, thinking they were just about to restart. They do restart. I think it's at the end of this lap. But Crofty's saying, "Oh, he wouldn't be unhappy if we ended up finished behind the safety car, because young Maxwell is winning the race, and Pierre Gasly is going to get his first podium in Formula One in 3rd. Remember, Pierre Gasly was lapped, got released. Okay, more to come on this. But you don't mind it as a safety car finish in these circumstances, do you?
Season, I mean, it's his highest start, wasn't it, since he was demoted from Red Bull, in a season that has turned sour for him. You were saying, bounced back brilliantly and could find himself on the podium today alongside the man that replaced him at Red Bull, celebrating his first podium in Formula One alongside their teammate in the Red Bull.
Just slow pace, a 155 there.
Ferrari team principal, given all the squabbles, the track battles, the suspicion that one guy's been given a better strategy than the other, everything that's happened this year. What on earth do you say to these two when they come back? If indeed they do come back to the garage. If I was Seb, I'd just go and find a bar somewhere in downtown Interlagos.
That car is obviously well clear now. The debris, a lot of the debris is gone. And safety car is ending. We will get a restart.
Safety car ending.
Lewis is going to get his chance.
With how many laps to go?
Is it? Safety car is in.
Right. So, restart. And a couple of laps, 3 laps here of absolute pandemonium. Max Verstappen has his teammate Alex Albon for company. Albon's on the podium. He might even find himself winning this race if he can find a way past his teammate. Pierre Gasly's right up there as well. Hamilton on fresh tyres will be hoping to get back on the podium. Carlos Sainz is lying in waiting. Then comes Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, Norris and Perez all in the points.
Max just doesn't want to give all that lot of slipstream up the hill. He's gone, he's bolted.
He's got the clearance, the green flags are there, and he really is away, Max Verstappen. And round the outside of Pierre Gasly goes Lewis Hamilton, and back up into the podium
Pierre
places.
Gasly has missed out on the podium
to contend with as they all file through the Centre S, and Hulkenberg trying to make a move on Sergio Perez back in the distance there, and he might just have done that, you know. Ricciardo's certainly ahead of him. No, Hulkenberg is behind as Hamilton lets the challenge. Alex Albon can't quite get past him.
All you have to do, you're not allowed, if you're leading the pack like that, you're not allowed to accelerate, then brake and accelerate and brake. So you're entitled to keep the pack slow until you get to the line.
Carlos Sainz has Kimi Raikkonen for company.
Look at Lewis.
Sainz tries to hold on to 5th place. Daniel Ricciardo round all over the rear of Antonio Giovinazzi, and Alex Albon has Hamilton troubles here as he turns in. Oh, and Lewis Hamilton makes contact with Alex Albon. His first podium in Formula One is sent spinning and drifting away in the infield in Interlagos. Oh, and you can see that coming as well.
Hamilton may take a penalty for that, but Alex left it.
What was that, Martin? Hamilton may take a penalty for that. That's a bit premature in making that assessment, but that's typical of you, Martin. Pierre Gasly in 2nd position. How many laps we've got to go?
Door wide open, and Lewis decided he was going to stick his nose in there.
Max Verstappen starts the final lap of this Brazilian Grand Prix.
So
Gasly is
2 racing
second.
laps.
Lewis Hamilton runs 3rd. Carlos Sainz 4th. The stewards are going to be looking at that incident. Alex Albon is down in 15th. That is proper heartache for that young lad who did not deserve that at all. The door was left open. Was Hamilton too clumsy? We'll talk about that in a moment. He's got damage to his front wing, Lewis Hamilton. He's looking for a way past into the Ciudad del Lago, but he can't find a way through.
What happens here?
and amidst all the carnage behind Max Verstappen is going to go and take this win, Martin, and no one will in any way query that. He deserves it this afternoon.
No, we never query anything when Max wins.
He left the door wide open. It was such an invitation for Lewis Hamilton there. And Lewis, it wasn't exactly all the way alongside him, but I think he was entitled to stick his nose in there.
So you're saying it actually wasn't Lewis's fault? That's nice of you, Martin. So doesn't have to take a penalty. All right, thanks.
Stewards are looking at it, as you can see, as Max Verstappen gets his foot down for one last time towards the line. Lewis Hamilton tries to make his way where we've got past Timo Glock in 2008 and Junsao to get past Gasly. The checker flag is out. The Brazilian Grand Prix goes to Max Verstappen a year after he finished second and had it taken away in his redemption day. Hamilton fights Gasly to the line. Gasly comes home to take second place.
Pierre Gasly comes second. Just remind me, how many people are involved in a duel? So talk us through this again, please, Martin. I need to get this clear about the purpose of the safety car.
And you know what? Even knowing who the lap cars are is not as straightforward as you might think, because...
Well, so you don't just look at the data screen and see which ones say +1 lap. Okay.
You get a safety car situation, and some cars pit, and that means they are then lapped, or the leader pits and unlaps some other cars. So it takes a certain amount of time to work out exactly who the lap runners are, where they are.
But tell us the fundamental purpose of that rule. This is really important, Martin.
In the pack, but the fundamental point of that rule is to make sure that they don't get in the way of a great duel towards the end of a Grand Prix, and that's only happened, didn't it?
What? So Gasly, who had been lapped, wasn't allowed to get involved in a duel at the end of that Grand Prix, because that's the purpose of him getting him out of the way, isn't it? What's he doing coming second? What's the fundamental purpose of releasing the lapped cars if he's getting involved in the duel now by finishing second? Is that really the purpose, Martin? Or are you gaslighting everybody once again, lying to the entire world about the rules of the sport to validate the fix? Do you need me to answer that? The purpose of the rule is to release them so they can make it back, to restore the correct race order, and so that the proper, valid restart conditions are achieved, that Sky Sports have never told the watching world. And they've never done it, they've never explained it this way, because it proves them to have lied and it exposes the fix. The 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix has it all. And if you even look at the stewards' documents after the race, which I'll go into on the longer version, you'll see there's a lot more to it than that as well. So, two safety car laps after the lap on which those lapped cars were released. Not just the one mandatory one, but the additional discretionary one, which is the race director's overriding authority. That's what that rule means. And the purpose of releasing the lap cars is clearly demonstrated here by the fact that the car that was lapped, Pierre Gasly, that was lapped at that stage, ends up finishing second. The guy's first ever Formula One podium. Brundle and Crofty commentated on this event. They've lived it. They have lived it. So what on earth are they talking about, pretending they don't know the rules of the sport? When we know it, when we can see it, they are professionals. They are the people with 40 years of experience in the commentary box between them. And they are lying to the world. The whole world needs to see this video. They need to see the true nature of what took place and exactly how Sky Sports lie about the rules of the sport in order to validate Abu Dhabi. I'm going to do a longer version of this that's going to be in far more detail. Hopefully, well, I don't know how long this one is now, probably about half an hour already. But this is the short version. That's the best I can do.